Okay, good evening and welcome to the April 8th, 2024 meeting of the Barnstable Planning Board here at Barnstable Town Hall, 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. We're in the James H. Crocker Jr. Hearing Room, located on the second floor, and it is 7:02 p.m. The meeting notice has been previously filed with the town clerk in accordance with Mass General Law. All application materials may be accessed through the Planning Board website or by contacting Karen Pina at karen.pina@town.barnstable.ma.us or calling 508-862-4064. I will now call the meeting to order and will introduce our board members this evening, starting with Matt.
Matt Tay, good evening.
And Tim.
Good evening, Tim O'Neill.
And Bob.
Good evening, Bob Twist.
And town staff, Jim.
Good evening, Jim Cuffer, Assistant Director, Planning and Development.
Good evening, Jennifer Engelson, Office Manager, Planning and Development.
Thank you so much. And again, my name is Steve Robichaud. We will start with any general public comment this evening. If we have any general public comment, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we will move to our first agenda item this evening, which is a subdivision. Matt? Yes, please. Yep.
This is a preliminary subdivision number 829. Larry Nicholas has submitted a preliminary subdivision application for review for 1650 Old Stage Road and 0 Parker Lane, West Barnstable, Assessors Map 152, Parcel 006, Map 152, Parcel 010, and that's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And it looks like we have the applicant here this evening. Welcome. Please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Attorney Jeffrey Johnson on behalf
Can they please make sure the microphone is on?
Just make sure the microphone's on. You want to make sure the green light
A
is,
little green
is
button
on.
right there. You go.
Perfect.
Thank you. Again,
If you'd like to stand, you can stand at the podium if you'd like. Yeah, probably better height on the mic.
Attorney Jeffrey Johnson on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Larry Nicholas, who's here tonight along with his engineer, Frank Gallagher, surveyor. This is a preliminary subdivision plan. Just to let you know, the real reason we filed it as a subdivision plan rather than an A&R is we intend to relocate Parker Road. The conditions on the ground now would have Parker Road cutting through the 2 lots that we intend to create, and we're just straightening it out. I do note that in your staff report, it calls Lot 1 as an unimproved piece of property, but in fact it is improved. There's an existing dwelling on the road at Old Stage Road. It's a fairly simple concept that we're doing here. There are 2 2-acre lots that we're creating, even though we could have had left it alone and had a very small second lot. But by straightening out Parker Road, we've made the second lot a full 2 acres, which is better, of course, for the neighborhood and everything else. Mr. Gallagher requested similar waivers to an abutting 2-lot plan. I think the requests for the waivers are in keeping with what we want to do here and keeping it a very rural and natural setting. And I don't really have a lot more to say. I think we could field some questions. Mr. Gallagher would be answering any technical questions.
Excellent. That was great. And Jim, could you provide a little bit of a background? This may seem familiar to some members. It's familiar to me. I remember the name Egan, and I remember a prior subdivision. If you can give us some background.
Absolutely. So yes, what you have before you, as Attorney Johnson mentioned, is an application for a preliminary subdivision plan. I know this board has now done a few preliminary subdivision plans, so the purpose of the submission of a preliminary subdivision plan will be for the applicant, the board, and other agencies to discuss and clarify any identified conflicts or concerns of such subdivision before a definitive is prepared. In the case of subdivision showing lots in a residential zone, Any person before submitting the definitive subdivision approval may submit this preliminary plan to both the planning board and the board of health. During discussion of the preliminary plan, information required for a definitive plan can be developed. So really, this is kind of the starting point, an introduction to a potential definitive subdivision plan. And now is the time for the board and other applicable departments to start to form any obvious issues or concerns that may be identified. As the chair mentioned, this specific lot probably feels very familiar because, as you'll see on the plan, and I'm sure as Mr. Gallagher will walk you through, this is essentially an extension of a subdivision that was created not that long ago, about a year ago, and actually I believe is under construction right now. And it formed two lots, and here the request is very similar. It's two acre lots, so two conforming lots, and the waivers being requested are similar to that as this board has contemplated previously for reduction of essentially the standards of way in order to keep with the natural environment in the area as identified in the application before you. I will note that the plan set that you have in PDF states a definitive subdivision, and so this is actually a preliminary subdivision. I know the hard copies had preliminary carved onto it, but I just want to identify that as just a correction. Happy to answer any questions, but I know there are engineers here as well.
Great, I appreciate that. And, obviously with the Egan subdivision, it opens up some frontage there for Lot 2, so certainly this seems like a logical step for you. I just wanted to ask I know this is in here, but if you can just state for the record, the road will be consistent from the Egan subdivision all the way through to Old Stage?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, yeah, the roadway, if you could see the top of that sheet, you'll see the roadway cross-section.
Oh, yeah.
And it's identical to what we proposed and you approved for the prior subdivision. Oh, okay. Yeah, here's the roadway section. So what we have is two 9-foot lanes. So in other words, 18 feet wide, a gravel surface, and then on one side we have a drainage swale. And so the road itself is actually super elevated, so everything pitches, if you're looking at this section, from right to left and into that drainage swale. So all the stormwater then flows into that swale. So if we're down here, what we see is this side of the road is the high side, and it drains in this direction, and then we have a drainage swale that follows all along, I guess we'd say, the south side of the road. We've got a catch basin at this location and at this location, and those feed into an underground leaching pit. So all the stormwater's basically recharged back into the ground. There isn't any wetland on this lot, so there isn't really an opportunity to discharge it into a wetland area. But this is the same type of system that we proposed on this prior subdivision. We did some test holes in those locations, and we found good soil, so, we have to probably do that same thing in the locations where we have these two pits. But yeah, it's really just going to be a continuation of what's already being done out there.
Great. I appreciate that, and I do remember the Egan subdivision. I do remember approving the waivers related to the roadway, and I think that was appropriate for the rural character of the area, and certainly I am in favor of the same, the waivers listed here this evening. Matt, any questions, comments?
None, thank you.
Tim?
The only question I had, and I think I'm answering it here, is to Plan North, Lot 1 is not included with this subdivision, we're just looking at these bottom two lots, and if that lot line, I think it is here. Is that lot line just to north there, right past the road grade?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to see.
Are you asking about Lot 1 to the north of our plan?
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, where that southern lot line is.
Yeah, that, is carried over from, that was Lot 1 on an A&R plan that preceded Bill Egan's subdivision plan. So actually, probably, when I submit a definitive to you, I'll probably take that off, because it does create a little bit of confusion, I can see.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was it.
Or you could add the plan number.
Yeah, yep, I could reference that A&R plan, the book and page.
Okay, on that
One way or
lot to the
another,
north.
Yeah, I'll do something to kind
Jim,
of,
any thoughts on the best way to approach that?
No, that sounds like a good plan, actually. Removing Lot 1 because it's duplicative, but referencing the plan, I think, would be helpful. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, that sounds great. Bob, anything to add? Any questions?
I didn't until just a minute ago. When I was looking at it, I thought there were two Lot 1s, one north of the road and one south of the road. But someone just said something that led me to believe that Lot 1, it's one lot and half of it's north of the road and half of it's south of the road. Are there two separate Lot 1s, one north of the road and one south of the road, I assume with different ownership?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This lot.
Here.
This lot 1 here.
Yeah.
Is shown on another A&R plan. There's actually an existing house
Good, okay.
there now, and this would be our lot 1.
Right. That's what I understood when I reviewed it,
We're
but
just gonna-
someone just said something that confused
Right,
me.
when we submit the definitive, we'll add the plan book and page for this other lot.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Jim, anything to add?
No, just that we will, upon receipt of definitive subdivision, we'll certainly reiterate or resubmit all the application materials to all the applicable departments and get comments for this board. One thing I think it might be important to identify now so everyone's on the same page. One sticking point, the last subdivision was that utilities were underground. Confirming that utilities are underground here and that the board wants that utilities underground here as well.
That's the
Yeah.
intention.
Yes.
Excellent. No, that's good to hear. I mean, certainly that is something that I would insist upon. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Smart idea.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Before it comes back for the definitive, would it receive review from the Department of Public, or sorry, the town engineer before it came to us for the definitive?
Well, so the application itself will get here before you, but as soon as we receive that application, we'll send it to our town engineer for review of things like stormwater and road grade and the like.
So hopefully at the definitive, by the time we have a hearing, we'd have the town engineer comments back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Great. Just a note, this is a preliminary subdivision, so we do not have a public hearing on this item. And,
For a
go
point
ahead.
of clarification, the
Yes,
existing
please.
house on our lot 1 already has overhead electric to it now, and we probably wouldn't be changing that. We're just going to bring the utilities for the benefit of lot 2
Underground.
up the road that Mr. Egan is starting.
Understood. Yep, understood. Anything else from the board before we have a motion? Okay, Matt?
I would move that we, let me just make sure I get the language right here. I would move that we approve the preliminary subdivision plan on Old Stage Road and Parker Lane in Barnstable, Mass. with the relocation of Parker Lane on proposed lots 1 and 2 dated January 5th, 2024 by Gallagher Engineering. And we should read the findings as well as part of the motion, yeah.
Yeah, just note that that's subdivision plan number 829.
Yep, and this is for subdivision plan 829 with the following findings. Application for tentative approval of preliminary plan Form B is for Larry Nicholas dated March 4th, 2024. The preliminary subdivision plan is shown on preliminary subdivision plan of land on Old Stage Road and Parker Lane in Barnstable, Mass. Relocation of Parker Lane on proposed lots 1 and 2 dated January 5th, 2024 by Gallagher Engineering. The applicant has requested certain waivers in order to maintain the rural character of the area, and in accordance with Section 801-5B1 of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, waivers from the construction standards to maintain rural character, the planning board has made the following findings. A grant of the waivers requested are in the best interest of the citizens of the town. The plan is well designed and in keeping with the general design principles set forth in Article 6 of the subdivision rules and regulations. There is adequate access to the lots for the use of the intended thereon, for uses intended thereon, and the plan is in keeping with the character of the surrounding area. That's the motion.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Matt. And a second on that motion?
This is Tim, I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, general correspondence. We have a Chapter 91 notice for 116 Bay Road in Barnstable, McShay for a pier, ramp, float, and piles. Chapter 91 notice for 104 Great Bay Road, Osterville, Barbieri, pier, ramp, and float. ENF notice 242 Washington Ave, Osterville, Washington SGG nominee trust, pool and pool house, tennis court, and driveway. And a Chapter 91 notice for 104 Great Bay Road, Osterville, Barbieri, pier, ramp, and float. And we are next going to move to our staff update. This is a highly anticipated local comprehensive planning committee presentation. We have with us this evening Wendy Northcross and Lindsay Council. And I believe Wendy is chair, Lindsay is vice chair. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for coming. And Jim, I see you at the podium. Are you going to lead us off?
Yes. I think if it's all right, I'll start walking us
Absolutely.
through the presentation. And Wendy and Lindsay, please feel free to weigh in, add any comments that you think the board would appreciate. This has been a long process to date. We've already been going on for about a little over a year now. Crisscrossing the town, listening to our fellow residents about what the future of Barnstable may be for the next 10 to 20 years. We'll recognize Mr. Twist is also a representative of the local comprehensive planning committee.
Right.
So this presentation is actually kind of modeled after our community meeting. So much of this will be repetitive for those who've been to some of those meetings, but we thought it would be a good next step to reintroduce the board to our process and where we are today. It's actually funny, as I was developing out this presentation, I saved it right next to our April 2021 presentation to the planning board. So it's actually been 2 years since we did this introduction to the board. So real quick, what is a local comprehensive plan? So we define the local comprehensive plan as a long-term vision for the community by anticipating and guiding the rate of new development and coordinating with capital facilities. And so when we highlight the word rate of new development, everyone, in my opinion, everyone's mind immediately goes to construction of housing or something of that nature. It's really the balance that we talk about. And so the next line here, a comprehensive plan defines unique values. We seek to protect and encourage balanced economic development. So rate of new development doesn't mean new growth necessarily. It means an opportunity to balance growth with preservation and all the other land use values that come with it. And we'll get through to some of those. But why is the plan important? Well, I mean, if we think about it, the town has changed dramatically over the course of our time here in the town of Barnstable. I would say in just 1 decade, our community has evolved significantly. So this is good common practice to look, reflect, and understand what our values truly are. So not only is it good common practice, but it is also state statute. And here on Cape Cod, we like to be special. And under the Barnstable County, we have a requirement for a local comprehensive planning plan. Mass General law states a master plan is to be created and has a number of defined chapters. Here in the county, we refine that even more so under our county guide. So how is this update structured? So we have phase 1 and phase 2, and we're currently in the midst of phase 2. Phase 1 consists of existing conditions and a vision statement. That vision statement took a little over a year, about 15 meetings of the committee. It took about, I don't have the unique values, but I would say has to be close to 4,000, 5,000 unique comments that were provided over time. We had about 1,500 survey responses. We went to all 7 villages, some multiple times. We went to things like youth soccer. We hosted a high school class talking about what a local comprehensive plan is. So, we've heard from a lot of our stakeholders, and all that was built up so that the committee can be informed when developing out that first vision statement. And the reason why all of that work is put into the vision statement, because this vision statement has now helped guiding the committee and the town as to what kind of our priorities are and how we develop out phase 2. Phase 2 begins to start diving deeper into subject matters. So we start with our vision statement, and then we start getting into subject matters and defining out goals. So the vision statement's real broad brush. This is what we want to see our community in the next 20 years. Phase 2 in the topics, we start specifying what do we want to see about what's our goal for housing, what's our goal for natural resources, what's our goal for economic development, facilities, infrastructure, et cetera. And these are weighty subjects. These are large subjects that we as a community have to grapple with. And so we're now starting to define our goals. Once we get to our goals, then it sounds like a long process, and it is, but it's an important process because we have to incrementally get there. So we start with our big vision, we start defining our goals, and our next step is going to be defining out our strategies. So this is the actually boots on the ground. So we have our big vision, we have our goals, our goal for sewer over the next 20 years, our goal for water quality for the next 20 years. And then we start defining out our strategies. What are we actually going to do about that goal? How are we actually going to get there? And what that creates is an action plan. So once we have our goals and our strategies, that develops out our action plan. And what we hope to do in this plan that we didn't really do in our last plan is develop out performance metrics. So, one of the questions the committee asked us right away was, how do we do? How do we do from the 2010 plan? And we tried to figure out exactly where we stood with a lot of our goals and strategies, but some of them weren't really performance-based or were too general or broad that we couldn't assign a number or anything like that to it. So it really started to get our minds thinking about if we're going to define out these strategies, we need to make sure that we have strategies that can be reviewed and understand those metrics to make sure that we're actually achieving those strategies. So how the action plan hopes to develop out, we're not quite there yet. We're right now in the midst of phase 2, but once we get to the strategies, the hope is that we'll have our chapters with our action items, and those action items are then assigned. So the planning board might be one of the assignees that thinks about maybe, perhaps subdivision regulation changes. You guys deal with subdivisions. What are some things that you see time and time again that needs to be tweaked? And then we can assign what that measurement would look like, whether it's, preserving X amount of trees because we've, established roadway standards that, preserve natural character or something of that nature. And so those performance measures should be, well-defined and spread across all the appropriate chapters. So right now, where we are is reviewing our first batch of chapters. So all those topic areas that I had highlighted earlier, we're about halfway through. We've started to talk about land use, but the committee has agreed that that's kind of that's a subject that touches every chapter. So we're going to come back to that at the end again. We've started touching on housing. we've reviewed natural resources, and we've reviewed infrastructure. And what we've taken from those chapters is, each of those chapters then consists of very specific sections, and the light blue is definitely washed out a little bit, but each chapter is going to have a general introduction, some key data sheets, some key metrics, and then actions since 2010, so any of the key actions we can identify, and even if they're not performance-based, but we can identify that we've sought to achieve some of those actions. Some key issues and opportunities, and a lot of these issues and opportunities are born from talking to our residents, so understanding that phase one communications, and then also talking to our experts. So each one of our meetings with the committee, they host a local expert and a regional or state expert. So we've had like a housing expert that crisscrosses our Commonwealth and talks about housing challenges. And then we had a local expert. We've had, same thing with natural resources. We had a regional expert and a local expert. And so this is kind of a trend we're trying to continue on for each one of the chapters and take some of those key issues and opportunities and put them in the chapter there. And from there, we've identified goals based on the issues and opportunities and the public feedback that we've received to date. And then the last section is our map. So we as planners always like to point to maps. And so these maps are meant to kind of illustrate the narrative that is in our chapters. So right now what we're looking to do is, again, we're crisscrossing the community. I know Lindsay and Wendy have been to each of our first two, and we've had a number of other committee members. I think, Bob, you may have been to both of them as well. We've been to Barnstable Village and to Katuitt. We will be in Centerville tomorrow night, I believe, and Marston's Mills the following night. We're going to take a little break for April vacation, but then be back the following week with two more. We'd love for everyone to come to each one of these community meetings, but that's not the only way you can provide comment. So we have several different ways. So one is the village meetings. Two is on barnstablelcp.com. So on barnstablelcp.com, we have all the chapters put up there. We have all the goals established, and we have a comment tool or a way for you to provide comments. You can also just drop it off here at Town Hall at the planning office on the 3rd floor. So you can drop it off, mail it in. And we also have paper copies at all of our village libraries, so you could take a look at those and then offer comment later on. So those are the different ways you can provide comment. All of our materials, not just the current chapters, but the vision statement that we referred to, the existing conditions report that was put together, and actually every meeting material that the committee has reviewed is all on barnstablelcp.com. You can go to the document library for most of it, meeting materials for the balance, our calendar, and ways to stay connected. So just kind of big picture. So where that red circle is, we're in the spring, going out to our community, talking about the first half of phase 2 chapters. We then are going to be finishing up the balance of the chapters and the goal is to go back out this winter and crisscross the villages again. And then lastly, formulate our action plan and have a community-wide meeting. We anticipate that this plan will be before this board, probably the spring of 2025 for your review. It ultimately goes to town council for their approval. And this is just our lovely meeting over in Barnstable Village. And and these are the upcoming meetings that we have there. So Centerville tomorrow, Marston's Mills following day, Osterville in 2 weeks, West Barnstable Village, and then concluding in Hyannis. And with that, Wendy, Lindsay, feel free.
So it's been a fascinating process. We've spent probably more than a year listening to the point where the committee was itching to like, well, when do we get to talk? When do we get to debate this? But we did an awful lot of listening, developed this vision plan, which was an exercise in and of itself. But in those broad visions that we heard from the community, water was at the top of the list. Restoring salt water, restoring fresh water, maintaining the quality, aside from drinking water, but just the quality of our embayments. I think that the town has done a great deal of progress towards that with our comprehensive wastewater management plan. Another thing that we heard a lot of was about housing and the desperate need for a diverse housing type. A lot of single-family homes, a lot of the land's protected. So how do we meet our housing need? How do we retain the people that we need to work here and add to our community and help support all the amenities, all the reasons we love to be here, because we can go out to eat, we can go to a cultural center, we can go to the hospital, and we know that there's people there to help us. So that is something that's been a really interesting conversation. We've heard about the desire for walkable village centers, for a place to live that you don't have to get in the car, but if you do want to walk or take a bike, that it's safe, that there's enough lighting. We've heard about the need for more recreation in terms of playgrounds. When I grew up, going to the beach was all the playground I needed, but playgrounds and ball fields and that kind of a thing has been expressed as a community desirable asset. And transportation too, a lot of transportation. I think there's a lot of, we realize we're almost too dependent on automobiles. How can we reduce that dependency? And through land use planning, you can create opportunities through infill that's on infrastructure of wastewater, broadband, near transit. There's things that we can do, but we have to be creative about it, and we have to find those opportunities because we're kind of built out. We've got a lot of land protected, but we have some that's not, and we have to be smart how we use what's left. I think that the thing that was a little bit different that we hadn't had in our prior plan, which the prior plan was done in 2010, was kind of sprawling. I think DPW alone had over 300 action goals. So when you say it was hard to measure, DPW was like, 300 action goals on a piece of paper when every day you're just trying to get the work done. So we're trying to create a plan that's a little more succinct, has a big vision, but gives some realistic goals. The one thing we think that's a little bit new is how we use our coastline, how our beaches are impacted not just by potential offshore wind, cable landfall, but it could be how aquaculture is accommodated. If we want to truly have a blue economy, what's our access to rope-grown mussel beds? I mean, there's a myriad amount of things that we can use our coastal resources for, and we have never really had an in-depth, comprehensive plan on that. We don't pretend that we're the committee, and you jump in anytime, Lindsay. We don't believe that we're the committee to necessarily wrestle with that, but we've identified that there needs to be a plan for that, just the way we have an open space plan, just the way we have a CWMP, Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. Perhaps we need to get some experts in the room and some stakeholders in the room and nail down something there that has to be forward-looking. We might not be able to solve issues that are happening today, but we can certainly talk about how Cape Cod accommodates a robust renewable wind energy effort that's off our shores. Has Barnstable done enough, or can we do more? We talked a lot about resiliency, especially from the town department heads. Regardless of what's causing big storms are causing changes to our infrastructure, and they're creating challenges, whether it's incursion of water, salt water into water systems, erosion. There's a whole bunch of activities that the town departments are trying to get. Talking to the town engineer was pretty daunting. The things that they're wrestling with to try to keep our infrastructure operating and what do we need to do into the future. So it's been fascinating. I think we're getting to the point now where we've done a lot of work that we want to push back out into the community. We have, even though I think there's been some criticism in our public comment possibilities, we have never not allowed anybody to comment in any way, shape, or form on this plan. We've spent a year out in the community. We have, even though we're not a board, we're a committee, we're not having hearings, we still have public comment at our meetings. We have online surveys. We have the documents on a website. You can go on the website and look at the plan and make a specific comment or communication there. You can send us emails to the planning board that sends them to us. So we've been taking an awful lot of information in, and now we're trying to quickly distill it down, get it out back into the community for the entire month of April, and hear back. So we're right in the middle of that. But then we've got more chapters to write on historic preservation, economic development, culture. I think there's another one. And then we'll come back to land use. So land use really is the 800-pound gorilla here. And how do we, as a community, get everything that we want and need with the amount of land that's left to do anything with?
That was great, Wendy. This is an interesting process that we've been through, and it's different than the last go-around for the 2010 plan. If you remember, that was run through village associations, and much of the comment came through them to guide the direction forward. This has been a very public process, and it has been standing in these rooms and listening to the folks and what their priorities are now has been very, very enlightening. And it's informed us in many ways. And I think, given the direction we're headed, this is going to be a real valuable tool going forward for yourselves and particularly the council to give direction. The 2010 plan, as Wendy mentioned, 300 direction items for the DPW kind of went on the shelf, and they were taken up with water quality and those kinds of things. And many of the items did get done, but it wasn't a working document that you could really frame your plan to move forward with. And that's where we hope this can be. Really getting out there with the folks and seeing their input. And we'll have 3 really main sections of public response going out to the villages. And we've seen the response. 1,500 respondents in our first go-around with our surveys online has been really, really informative for us. And I have to give the town planning department a lot of kudos. They have been patient with us, and we've put some demands on them that I don't think they were expecting.
We told them to hurry up.
Yeah, we told them we wanted to move faster, that's for sure. So I think it's a great process, and it will be the plan that goes forward to bring us to build out. We're, as you guys see all the time, the new land that's out there and available is becoming more and more limited. So this would be a redevelopment focus as well, and how we can improve things, like top of the shop housing and better using underutilized properties that are around. So, and you're already seeing that. So that'll be very important in that way. And we look forward to continuing the process, going forward. And your feedback will be critical too. Next fall when we start really getting into the goals and actions, we'd love for you folks to weigh in again. Maybe we come back and start discussing some of those things.
And I would ask Bob if there's anything, as a member of our committee, is there anything you wanted to add?
Bob?
Thank you, Wendy. A few things. First, I'd like to commend the leadership we've had of the commission committee since we started, and obviously with Wendy and Lindsay now. But before Wendy, we had Felicia Penn was the chair, and before that, Steve Costello. So we should recognize everyone who's had leadership roles in the committee. And the other thing I'd like to mention. That goes to the things that both Wendy and Lindsay mentioned is the structure of the LCPC committee itself. there's an extraordinarily broad group of folks. We currently have, I think, 15, might be 14, might be 16, but in that range. But more importantly, we have at least one representative from every village. And we have people from all age groups, all type of life experiences who bring different things to the committee and to the hearings. People who experience things that many of the committee members do not and have not, which opens up all of our eyes to a lot of things that might not get attention in the ordinary course of events, but for the fact that we have people who don't drive to work every day, who don't have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on an acre and a half of land, and things of that nature, to focus our attention on a very broad range of issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, well said, Bob. And I just wanted to mention a few things. First of all, the committee in the town is very fortunate to have the three of you, obviously, on this committee with your background and experience. Definitely very lucky to have you a part of this, and great job leading the way. Lindsay, how long have you been on CPC?
Well, I've been on CPC since I started on this stuff.
You were 12.
Yeah, I was 12 in the Boy Scouts when I started, so it's been a long time. But 2006 was CPC, and then that predated, the land bank was before that. So I've been doing this land preservation stuff for a while. But one of the things that's coming up is in one of our chapters will be historic and cultural resources, and CPC has been very generous to the community to bring that along, and I think that makes a huge difference to the real character of the town in many ways.
No question. And it's been an honor to serve with you on the CPC, and I love watching you work and run the meetings. And, the few things that you mentioned about recreation and historic preservation, my one comment that I always make to Lindsay about CPC is I wish we were busier. There's just not as many letters of intent and applications that we would hope for. There's a lot of money there, and this is going to help that a lot. And CPC and the LPC, I think, will work closely together as this gets into effect,
Well, stay tuned. We're going to be working on something to address the playgrounds and recreation aspects with town staff. So we're going to come forward with a larger effort on that. And that was really out of the COVID period, is when you mentioned the increased use in those areas was remarkable. So stay tuned.
Good. Happy to hear that. There's no better way to spend that money, so that's great to hear. Commend you on the public comment and engagement. As a resident of the town, I feel that I see something related to LPC every single day, whether it's Facebook, it's just constant, and it's great to see. And, it sounds like you've had diversity of backgrounds and geographic regions and economic status. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, there's been a real effort to get into our most recent residents, people that have just moved here, and the younger generations, the kids. I mean, the plan is going to be to the benefit of our youth.
Right.
And we need them to be in the room.
Well, that's music to my ears and great to hear, and loved hearing about the youth soccer and the high school class. That was really a smart move. Go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, maybe a little too aggressive. Even Main Street for Halloween, you got a piece of candy if you took one of our survey postcards.
Open streets, we're there.
I love it. The creativity and the outreach has been incredible. I visit the planning department often, and I always hear about the road tour, and I see the signs and the pamphlets, and the amount of work that goes into it is incredible. Kate Maldonado as well, just a workhorse. So wanted to compliment the website. Website's great. All the information you could ever want is there. And also great timing. If you think about the CWMP that has recently been put together, if you think about our work on the Unified Design Guidelines, which we're still trying to get across the finish line, when you think about the form-based code, when you think about the housing production plan, all these things kind of happening at the same time, I think the timing is excellent. So, just all good things, and I'm really looking forward to more as we get going. One question I had, Jim, you outlined the process and how this is all set up. Where did this game plan come from? It couldn't have just burst from your head. Is there state guidance? Are you following the same process as 2010? Is there best practices? How did you get this process put together?
Yeah, it's all of the above, really. I mean, it was a collaborative effort. So, I've gone through this process a few different times in a couple different communities. One very similar to this in Newton, which has multiple villages. I've done small communities. So there's many different ways to do it. So, we started developing out that outline of how we as staff saw this going. We then were able to procure a consultant who's also very well versed in this process, and they provided us with some toolkits and some suggestions, and we brought it back to the committee, who then developed it out even more and really helped guide us to make sure that we were touching everywhere in the community. So it was really a collaborative process by really all parties to just continually build this process. There's no real one way to do it. There's no right way. It's just as you're going through the process, being ready to tweak it as it needs to for your community.
Yeah, well said. And the process, it seems, I know it's long, but it seems very practical and common sense, and there aren't steps that you can skip. So it makes sense. So again, my many thanks and best wishes as you continue forward. Matt, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just, for the committee itself, maybe Jim too, I know the town council's come up with a concept of a couple of subcommittees to look at, again, some very similar issues, housing, development, that sort of thing. What's the plan there in terms of coordinating that? Are these divergent processes? Is this something that we're going to plan on putting together at the end? It seems like you guys have a good thing going, so I'd like to, take advantage of the efforts you put in so far and not, take a left turn because there's a different set of goals with the committees that are being formed currently.
Great question. I mean, I think that we would love to have as much common binding interests stick in the plan. I mean, at the end of the day, we develop something that goes to you and then it goes to them. And we don't want to see everything all blown up, but, certainly we're realistic that some things may be tweaked. So prior to these special committees being appointed, I know there was a lot of time. I actually also serve, I think for the last 12, 15 years on the Affordable Housing and Economic Growth Trust Fund. I'm not a housing expert. I'm there with the economic hat on, but you've got that, you've got your housing committee, you've got Barnstable Housing Authority. All the people that are dealing with housing in the town need to get together, so that conversation was going on. So I'm hoping that this committee structure will bring some of the many people that are working on the same issue together in different ways. I mean, the housing trust, really, we're like the CPC committee, we got some money, we need to spend it, we want to spend it, the deals flow isn't coming through, we kind of know why, but we shouldn't be working in a vacuum. So that's a long answer, Matt, but I'm hopeful.
I guess that was my question. I mean, I think, for those groups to work independently, maybe there's a short-term component to the special committees that are being created, but I'd hate to see those negate the hard work that you guys are doing, because again, your horizon's 10, 15 plus years.
Right.
There really should be some cohesiveness. There may be some things we can do today to fix it, but I mean, you guys know how this process works. Snap your fingers and make 1,000 more houses in the town.
No.
So just in terms of the overall coordination. I mean, Jim, you've got a lot on your plate, you know what I mean? But some sort of prescriptive interaction with those committees and what you guys are doing, right? If we're all gonna go the same direction, let's all go the same direction. On any front, right? Not just the housing issue,
right,
but
right.
What else we're looking at.
Multiple issues.
And it's a great point. And I would say one benefit, I think, of this local comprehensive plan happening at this time is that there's been a lot of great work already done, a lot of great public input. So this is guidance from our community. So hopefully if anything, the subcommittees that are formed may be able to be informed by those communications from our residents.
I would concur with that. We're in formulation now of the various sets of our chapters, and I think these council committees, will, bringing councilors more up to speed as we go through this will be a great thing. So I think it's going to merge very well in timing-wise. We come into this fall, we'll start getting into the nitty-gritty. I think it's going to blend well with what the council is doing and what they're learning as they go forward.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here as chair is because Felicia got elected, right?
Right.
So there's some continuity there, and I think that there's also great continuity from other members on the committee. I think that the councilors have been showing up at LCPC meetings, so that's a good sign.
Well, I
too.
want to wish you the best of luck, and I commend your efforts, because this is a big problem to tackle. So, anything we can do to help you, please let us know. I was at the event in Barnstable Village last week. Really good, saw a good turnout there. So I hope you guys continue to get good feedback.
Some great feedback. Great feedback. I do want to say, too, I've been going to town council meetings just to hear public comment. So I've been going extensive notes, because you really hear, and it's quite passionate there, too, more than what we get at our meetings. But there's a lot of ways to hear what the community wants, and we've been taking copious notes. So.
Excellent. Tim, questions, comments?
No, I think I share some of the same sentiments discussed tonight, and I think my only kind of question and area for maybe some more understanding is a little further down the line when it gets in terms of action plan, where maybe the guardrails of the suggestions could go in terms of, putting the goals set out by the LCP into action. Is it mostly policy suggestions to our existing boards? Will there be maybe suggestions for new boards or charter change or things like that? Where are some of the places you think it could be steered?
Well, I don't think we're the charter change group. We see our charge as primarily how we're going to use our land. This is a land use plan. This is how we develop what we need and protect what we love. So I would say what's coming out of it is a little bit of a mix. Like in some cases, maybe that's a new ordinance we need. Do we need to have a fertilizer ordinance? Do we need to have certain ordinances around housing? I mean, those are just conversations. They're not concrete yet. But in some cases, it's a policy. In some cases, it could in fact be an ordinance, or it could be just plant more trees.
And we may want to look at areas that we just don't know about yet. We came up with one thing in a discussion with staff about these wind energy farms, and the cable outfalls was a big issue. Well, what about the next thing? Would it be tidal electric generation out of Barnstable Harbor? How would you deal with that?
Oh, yeah.
So really taking a look down the line and saying, well, we don't really know about this, but we may need to recommend that the council take up a study on something, and that means spending money. So, we would look at those types of recommendations.
Sure, and I think, my question, and maybe I phrased it interestingly, is, as far as, charter change, but, if there's maybe a suggestion for a new board or new committee to, focus in on some of these areas, I know we have a shellfish committee, but, something like that could maybe blend some areas and think that there could be a unique perspective put together, or a lot of that work done long-term by new committees. I just don't know if that is, some of the suggestions that could be out there for some of those areas.
Great thoughts, Tim. I don't think we've gotten that far yet with that. I mean, we have as much as said, well, I think we need to study this more. Now, how that gets studied hasn't been directed or suggested. I mean, and you hate to load the mule of the planning staff, which is mighty and effective, but do we really want to go out and hire 88 more consultants to get some work done? We don't know that yet, but we're clearly seeing that areas where we need more information. I don't think we have suggested, Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've suggested anything as prescriptive as a new board or committee, or I think there's a little bit of a feeling that maybe we have too many committees, and it's hard to fill committees, right? It's hard to get people.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And no, we haven't, that's really that action level that we're trying to get to. We're still at that kind of goal setting stage. But yes, once we get to that action level, I mean, maybe it is a committee, maybe it's a new program that needs to go in place, or maybe it is a study. But once we get to those defined goals, then we can start outlining some of the strategies. And we have heard actually a number of really good strategies at some of the village meetings that we're kind of jotting down and saving for later. And, you know, we'll bring back and start outlining that plan, that action plan that goes back out. And yeah, that's hopefully when we'll start getting a lot of that feedback and suggestions for, you know, like, hey, there's an ordinance that's just been in our way for forever to unlock, you know, something great for our community. And then that could be a very specific programmatic strategy that we try and tackle in our future.
I think the one thing that we're hearing, the huge urgency of now is around housing and around the people that we're losing from the Cape, from our workforce. And even town departments have been asked, do you have enough people? And they say no, they have a hard time recruiting. We know the police department has been challenged. We know DPW has been challenged. And there's a direct correlation to whether or not they can find housing. So there's a huge urgency on that. And there's a time, because it takes so much time to build something, right? And we don't think we can build our way out of it. So we have to come up with other strategies and tactics, whether it's, and we've done some things, ADUs by right. You know, we've been a very progressive community with our zoning and our planning, but there's just this crush that we hear, and I don't think we can solve that problem to the satisfaction of everyone, but I think it's really pushing us to look at things with new solutions. You know, how do we have smaller, multifamily density, but protect character and community? And so those are kind of hard conversations to have, because we go to some villages and like, we're fine, we're just fine, we're all set. We're like, okay. So
Very true.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. Tim, anything else?
No, that was it.
Good for now? Yeah. Well, obviously, we are going to play a part in this, and I think we should all, you know, continue to do our homework and read what comes out. And please, you know, we'd love to have you back,
Sure.
especially in this fall and winter, once you're kind of at that point, and then learn more about, you know, what our role will be. But definitely good for us to stay engaged.
Take a look at the goals that have been published to date for the first batch, because what we've found early in our first two village meetings is great agreement. People are like, well, of course we like all these goals. I'm like, okay. It's like, why wouldn't we like these? Like, we don't know. That's why we're asking. But so we're getting that so that's good feedback. So if you just look at those goals, and then we can hear from you on that would be great feedback from you guys.
Sounds excellent. Sounds excellent, definitely. Anything else before we move on? Good? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again, really.
Thank you.
This was great.
Thank you very much for having us.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Jim, do you have a recap for us at this meeting?
I do. I know I've been talking quite a bit, but I do want to highlight a few things that the town, the planning department has been working on over the last couple weeks, because I know we haven't had this in a little bit. But just recently, this past Sunday morning, I was able to frequent the Marston's Mills Millbilly breakfast to get some pancakes and spread some news regarding the Marston's Mills Elementary School property master plan process. So right on the town's website, under the planning department, on the right side, there's current projects, and one of them is the Marston's Middle School property master plan. And we're going to be sending out press release and all and the like, but just getting out the word that we'll be having an in-person public workshop on April 30th at 6 p.m. At Liberty Hall, and that will be the kickoff meeting for kind of the master plan for the former elementary school site. If you guys aren't, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, right on 28 there. The building is now gone, but it's a large site that has, many possibilities. So now no pen has gone to paper in terms of what could go there just yet. So this is the kickoff to hear from all of you. We've tossed it to the Village Association to make sure that they are all well informed too, and we're handing out postcards in that area. We're also going to have a follow-up meeting on that Thursday, May 2nd. Via Zoom. So we heard loud and clear that that the village was hopeful they could have a Zoom option. So we have a secondary meeting for Zoom. And then anyone who likes to get out in the field and walk the site, you can join me Saturday, May 4th. That's at, I believe, 9 a.m. We're going to have a site walk. Currently, if you go out there, you're going to see stakes in the ground that our survey team has staked the property for me. So we're going to walk the boundary, kind of understand it. It's probably going to catch some by surprise how big that lot is. It actually goes into the woods quite a bit. There's a lot that fronts on Hilltop. It goes down pretty far here and over here. So it's a pretty large site. We're going to have 3 opportunities, and we've been working on developing out that master plan. If you go to the website, hopefully tomorrow, there will be a public comment tool that we have just have been working on. So a public comment tool where you can just click on the map and give some early feedback and comments. So there is that's going on. We also have, let's see if I can see it. Oh, yep. Kate's been working really hard on greening the gateway. So this is a great project that we're pushing forward with. We are a gateway city, so we're eligible for this Greening the Gateway program from the state that gives over 2,000 trees to the town to plant. And it might sound like an odd request, but we're trying to give you a tree. We are very serious about it. We have a specific zone that we can plant trees. So we have an arborist on staff, and he's going to be working with property owners. It's real washed out here, but this is downtown Hyannis. It goes down to Gosnold. It touches into Centerville a little bit, and it goes up to, this is 6. So it's a pretty large area to plant. We can plant on some on public property, but we want to try and engage our residents and get as many trees in this area as possible. So if you know anyone living in the area that's interested in a tree, go to our greeninghyannis.com and sign up for a tree. Once you sign up for that tree, then our arborists, and we also are working with a AmeriCorps person that will meet you on site and identify where a tree goes. These aren't just like little sticks either. They're 2.5 caliber, up to 6 feet in height at planting. So pretty nice tree. And you can have multiple on site too, if room allows. So we're trying to green Hyannis. So if you know anyone in the area that's eligible, please send them our way, because we would love to get a tree planted in there. Let's see. Another grant that we have recently achieved is a continuation of our design guidelines. I know the chair had mentioned finalizing our unified design guidelines. Well, we received a grant to continue working on that through the signage program. So we didn't really touch on the signage all that much in our last go-around. We tried to beef it up as much as possible, but we received a grant to specifically look at that. So that same architecture firm that was helping us for the first go-around is going to be helping us again, and we're starting to work on what that, a rough outline of what enhanced signage package for downtown Hyannis would look like. And I'm hoping to present it to you guys in the near future as a draft to get your early comments and feedback.
So that would be a continuation of what we were working on before?
Right,
I
so-
remember I joined that group, and that was great.
Exactly right. And we potentially could grab one or two members of the board to help with that working group. Same thing over with Historic. Historic wants to bring the design guidelines back. They've had a few suggested tweaks as well as they understand that we're working on the signage package as well. So I'll be presenting to them and presenting to you guys, and maybe we'll have another joint meeting in the near future to discuss that topic one more time. And then lastly, let's see if I have it here. We presented two-way Main Street back to the new town council because we wanted to make sure they have been well informed on the two-way Main Street. One of the linchpins of two-way Main Street is this intersection here. And so that's what we've been working on the last 6 months, is trying to figure out how in the world we can get a 6-point intersection to work efficiently and safely. And, some people love them, some people don't, but a roundabout actually works very well in this location. It's not just for safety, but we feel that it could be really an economic driver right here, an economic marquee. Welcome to the harbor. And so, over the past 6 months or so, we've been working with stakeholders such as the fire chief, DPW, town engineer, steamship authority to make sure that all stakeholders understand what the ins and outs, the pros and cons of this work would be. Positive reception from town council. Our engineers are tweaking it a little bit, so this isn't by any means the final design, but it's getting much closer to finalized. And what this does is really truly unlock that two-way whole program that we have. The lines and signs on Main Street and South Street and all the side streets, that's an easy flip over. But this intersection has been the real challenge point. And so this is our early draft that we showed at town council, and I wanted just to quickly show you guys this evening. There's still some opportunities there. We also got as you guys builders know, we're working with utilities. That's a main line that gets you to the hospital. So that's going to be a fun challenge. But aside from that, it seems to work well. And we're not touching the curb line on Azleton, which I thought was an important aspect because that's a nice park amenity that we have there.
Actually, is that layout pretty much all on town land for the most part?
It is. It's aside from the housing authority over on this corner here is the only point where we have to have some cooperation from others. But we work so that it cuts into the harbor overlook a little bit, but still retains much of it. And then this part right now is green, and then there's that road that we're actually looking to either cut off or maybe just make one way. We're still working through that logistics, but it would really start forming this additional green area here and closing it off and making it more of a pedestrian amenity, more of a linkage between the thing we've heard over and over and over again is from the village green to the harbor, there's no connection. This wall of a four-way or six-way intersection, but of signals and challenging site to get across this very utilitarian intersection is not welcoming to make that connection. So this is our hope that will achieve that.
Yeah, tough area for bikes, tough area for pedestrians. And if that entire area in the bottom left was green, there's another park. When they do music at Azleton Park in the summer, people can hang out on blank. I mean, this is some potential there. Is this a final design or?
This is still a draft form. We're still tweaking it, but it's I would say 90% there.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Cool. The elementary school, about 14 acres?
Yep, a little over 14 acres.
Okay, got it. Great, that was awesome. Great recap. I know it's been a while since we met, so That was very useful. Good stuff. Anything on Jim's recap? Okay. No general correspondence received. Approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve February 26, 2024 draft minutes?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of February 26, 2024.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Bob. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And myself, Steve Robichaud, votes aye. Minutes are approved. Future meetings, April 22nd, 2024, and May 13th, 2024, 7 p.m. Anybody else have anything before we seek a motion to adjourn?
I have one question.
Yes.
What is an ENF notification?
I actually wondered the same thing. Yeah.
You know what that
Is it environmental? What is in general correspondence? ENF notice.
Oh, environmental notification form. Environmental notification form notice. Let's see, for pool, that's a state form. I don't have that specific notice, but I could pull it out for you guys at the next meeting and see what it is.
Is it probably in the laser?
It is, yes.
Okay, I'll take a peek. I've only ever seen Chapter 91s in the general correspondence, so I didn't know what an ENF was.
Yeah, it was a good question. Great. Anything else? Look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn.
Thank you, Matt. And second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Steve Robichaud votes aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.